So today we'll be talking to you about just very briefly about American Council's role on the Flex program. We'll also be touching a little bit on YES, because much of what we talk about on Flex are also things that we do with the YES program, particularly in the countries where we recruit for YES in Southeast Europe and Senegal. So I'll start us off with that, and then Michael will talk about recruitment and selection. And then I know we'll have some time for questions. I'll talk about pre-departure orientation a little bit, and then have some time for questions, and then Tanya will give you a brief introduction to Ukraine. So first, before we start, I want to say thank you to everyone who helped support the students who went home last spring and summer as the pandemic was coming about. I know that for many people, it meant supporting students and having students in their homes weeks or sometimes even months after the program was supposed to have ended. And we just could not have these programs without that kind of tremendous support. And no one saw this coming. And this past year has had a lot of challenges, but we really appreciate everything that you've all done to support the students. So I wanted to start off by saying thank you for all of that. Very quickly, Flex is in its 29th year. It has over 29,000 alumni, and over 1 million participants have taken part in round one Flex recruitment in that time. YES is in its 18th year and nearly 13,000 alumni. Just a quick reminder of the way the Flex program has grown over the years. We're very happy that, since it started with 12 countries, since then we've seen a lot of growth, particularly in the last few years. And most recently, we've added, as many of you know, Czechia, Hungary, Slovakia, and Greece. And then this year, we're also very excited to have our first participants from Uzbekistan. It's been a number of years since Uzbekistan participated, and we're happy to welcome them back. And then just a brief reminder of geographically where everyone's coming from. In blue are all the Flex countries, and then in red, of course, are the YES countries where American Councils recruits. That's, again, Southeast Europe and Senegal. And worldwide, through all the programs that we administer, we have 30 offices that we work with overseas, and then over 425 of us working at American Councils around the world. So American Council's role, administrative role on the Flex program, just real quickly, that includes recruitment of students. That happens November to January, evaluation and selection. And then we do the pre-departure orientations, as I mentioned. We handle all the travel to and from the United States. We do on-program support, help support the students throughout the year. And then we also do alumni programming and work with alumni, support our alumni, pretty much from the day that they arrive back in their home countries until forever. As long as they want to be involved as alumni, we are there working with them. And again, just a reminder of the structure of the Flex program and all the different folks involved. We work directly with the State Department, and that's where our funding comes from, as does the funding to the placement organizations. For Flex and YES, we work with 18 different placement organizations. And in addition to American Council's role as a recruiting organization for YES and Flex, on YES, there are also 4 other recruitment organizations that we also work with overseas. Okay, and recruitment and selection. I will turn this over to Michael.
Okay, so to begin with, I'm going to talk a little bit about where our Flex students come from. So as you all know, Flex is a free and merit-based it's a program, and it's open to students who meet the age and other basic eligibility requirements. And because of that, the program really strives to have as diverse an applicant and finalist pool as possible. And this is very important to both the Department of State and us at American Councils. So we actually recruit in over 170 cities in 22 countries. The original 975 finalists from the 2020-2021 program year come from over 590 cities, towns, and villages. 87% are from outside the capital city. They speak 29 languages at home, and they know more languages than that. And below is kind of a little infographic of the different languages our Flex students speak. And they also represent 8 religions, so we have a lot of diversity in our finalists and applicant pool as well. Okay, and as you can imagine, we've had to change things in 2020. So in most years and most countries, we have in-person recruitment. But in 2020, we had to move to virtual recruitment. And I'll talk a little bit about how we usually do things and how things were done this past year. So our classic and in-person recruitment has 3 rounds. The first round has about 50,000 applicants. It includes a 16-question pre-test. It's open to all who meet the basic eligibility requirements. Usually the round 2 results are posted that day or the next day. And it can range, the test centers can range from 60 to 1,500 participants, but the average is usually about 200 to 300 per test center. And then the next round is round 2, so that 50,000 number is pared down to 17,000. And in that, they have 3 in-class essays that are proctored. And then after that, we move to round 3, which is 6,000 students, and it consists of a group activity, 3 in-class essays, an interview, the LTIS, and the application process, which you all see. And then all of that information is sent to DC for evaluation, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. And this is kind of what we moved to this year. It was a little bit different because of all the challenges of recruiting in person. So we moved to online recruitment. So round 1, we had 31,000 applicants, and it was pretty simple. It included an online application with basic biographical info, certifying their eligibility through a passport photo or a copy of the passport, and then 3 unproctored in-class essays. And everyone in the online recruitment model moves on to round 2. And round 2, about 23,000 participated. And it was a basic 15-minute online test of English. There was a 72-hour window to complete the test. And once they finished that, we moved on to screening. So all the English tests were scored, the essays were evaluated, and then semifinalists were selected for round 3. And round 3 was a little bit different this year. So a lot of it was most of it was online. So we had our parent meeting, virtual interview, an online application. We also had the EF set, which is an online responsive standardized English test, which you should see your student scores for those already. We had 3 proctored in-class essays, and we didn't have a group activity since the interviews were done virtually. After round 3 was finished, the applications were evaluated, and finalists and alternates were selected based on ECA numbers. And after those finalists and alternates were selected, we moved on to health review, working on the virtual LTIS and notification, which we're in the process of doing now. And here's a little bit about what happens before an application reaches you. So these are various pictures of recruitment, and you can even see a picture of Tanya there at our fall conference down at the bottom. And recruiters and evaluators both are trained in the same adjustment criteria used to evaluate applicants. And they aim to select the students that seem most ready to succeed and thrive for 10 months away from home, and eliminate those who do not seem ready. So pretty much everyone who's evaluating and meeting these students are trained in these criteria. The picture at the bottom with Tanya is at our fall conference, where we have a staff training for about 40 recruiters, and those recruiters work in pairs. So there's 1 American and 1 host country national, and they interview the students and evaluate the students in person in pairs. And then we also have the evaluation and selection, and those are conducted by volunteer evaluators and program staff who are trained in the same factors. So everyone has these same factors, and those evaluators, I think we have about 250 evaluators, and those could be retired Foreign Service officers, RPCV, Return Peace Corps volunteers, educators, or other people who have interest in the region, international exchange, or public diplomacy. And all of that evaluation actually moved online as well. We usually have a reading room in our office where people can come and read about applications, but this year we moved online, and it's opened up the opportunity to evaluate for people not in the DC area. And so once And then we also have like health review once finalists have been selected. So that's something we're doing currently. And notification is when finalists are officially notified and offered their Flex scholarship. And that's going to be happening in April on a rolling basis. And down there, we have an interesting stat that I think can be helpful to when you're talking to high schools or principals and explaining about what kind of students these are. So only 2.3% of submitted applicants are accepted, and those students become finalists. And that's actually a more competitive rate than a lot of prestigious universities in the United States like Yale, Stanford, and Harvard. So that's kind of that can tell you a little bit about how hard it is to get into the program and what kind of students we're selecting. And I'll briefly just go through some pictures to show you the differences of how things have used to be and how things changed this year. So this is kind of a slide showing how promotion is usually done. So we do things normally like TV interviews, radio spots, in-person presentations at schools or American corners around the world. And I think we all enjoy this picture of alum in Kyrgyzstan distributing promotional materials to villages by horseback. So we really rely on our alumni to get the word out about the program. And this is a picture from round 1 in Ukraine. We have so many students at these test centers, and they usually wait outside and listen to our instructions, and they can be some massive crowds when we have these in person. And this is a picture after round 1. We post the lists of the people who moved to round 2, are usually outside of wherever we're holding the round 1, which is usually at a school. So these are just pictures of students, hopefully looking for their name on the list and waiting to see if they've made it to round 2. When we talked about diversity earlier, we also really strive to make testing accessible. So you can see we have Braille material there. We have enlarged material. If possible, we try to have if a student is using a wheelchair, we try to have them test with all the other students. So we try to make sure that's accessible and accommodate that. And if necessary, staff may read questions to the student, or they can even transcribe their responses. We just want to make sure they have the opportunity to apply. Next, this is kind of round 3 this year. So this is how we did the proctored essay. So everyone had to show their passport to make sure they were the person they were saying, or some kind of identification showing they were who they were. And our staff proctored all the essays for round 3. And here's an example of the Zoom window that we all are familiar with now. But this is how we did round 3 interviews. So we had an American staff, home country national, and we interviewed students like that. And all the applications were online. So that's just an example of the application the students were filling out.
Okay, so that's it for recruitment and selection. If we wanted to have any questions, Gwen, Mary?
Yes. Hi, Brian. Michael, thank you so much. That was so informative.